allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It is Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021. You are at the Mitchell County Board of Supervisors meeting at the Mitchell County Courthouse. We have an agenda in front of us. Let you look through that. Maybe we'll have,
I move to approve the agenda.
we have a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, we'll move on. Approve the minutes of the January 25th, 26th, and the 28th meetings. Is there any?
I'll make it.
Todd's made a motion.
I'll second that.
Mark has seconded it. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, meetings are approved. County Attorney, general discussion. Mark, are you there?
Yes, I am.
You have the floor.
Just a couple things. One, the magistrate did find Mr. Kephart guilty of having a nuisance. He's given him 90 days to clean it up. I don't know if we'll see any progress or not. The court said if he doesn't have it cleaned up by then, I guess we'll go back into court and see what happens. The second thing is, and I don't know if Steve's been on the board long enough to remember this or not, but every 5 years, the county has to go through their book of ordinances and then re-adopt those by ordinance. So Rachel is going to put it on the agenda for next week. Next week we'll just be setting a hearing date because we have to publish that in the paper, give notice that anyone who wants to appear and comment at a public hearing has to be given that opportunity. Any ordinance usually requires 3 separate hearings, but normally if it's non-controversial, the board waives the first and the second hearing and proceeds right to the third hearing. Statutorily, you can do that. And if anything's non-controversial, the board usually waives first and second. But if it's controversial, like for instance, sometimes on bonding and borrowing money, they'll do 3 separate hearings, just to give people an opportunity to talk if they want to. So Rachel's going to put that on the agenda for next week. So when you see that there, all that's for is to set a hearing date for that adoption of the ordinances. So that's all I have.
Okay, is there any questions for Mark? Okay, thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Moving on, sheriff's update.
Good morning, everyone. I don't have a whole lot. Probably 2 things. The motor vehicle crash that we had at 320th and 218, you probably heard it on the news. That was not a road surface issue or a signage issue. It was just a distracted driving, fair to yield at the stop sign. So, secondly, probably, my budget for the second half of the year is in pretty good shape, so no concerns there. It's really all I have, unless people here have questions for me or if you folks do.
Apparently there is no questions.
Compliments, I'll take those too. Probably won't get any of them. Throw it out there.
Fine looking, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Discussion and action on paving projects. Pardon?
Number 5, county engineer update.
Oh, excuse me, yes, county engineer.
Not much update this morning. I know the blades are out scratching up gravel roads, kind of get some traction back into them after that wet snow and ice we had, so they're out there doing that. I do have some price quotes coming in. I think I got them late last night on some mower options for us, whether we've got brush cutter mower and rear and side mount mower options to use the existing tractor, and then got a couple different options. Once I go through them, I'll present them to you guys for information, so. To be getting that, and then that's about all I've got. We can talk about this, unless you guys got questions. We can.
Apparently there is no questions.
Okay.
Now we'll move to 6. I scratched Rich off when the sheriff got done talking, so I assumed that was the next in line item. I'm sorry about that. But anyways, discussion and action on paving projects for 21.
Did you want to start, Rich, or do you want us to have some,
Well,
thoughts to begin?
I can. My job is to inform you guys of where our budgets are at, what our projects are going to cost, what we think we can get done with the money we have. So, with that, we know where we're at with, or we know where the projects and program is right now. We haven't done anything with submitting our program for 2022 yet because the DOT hasn't required that until April 15th. So we've got a lot of fluidity in what we plan on doing next year and the following years after that. What I submitted a couple weeks ago during the budget hearing was just a forecast of options and how much money we were going to have in the budget to do construction. Projects can be rearranged up until I submit April 15th to the DOT. We've got a lot of time to work on it. With the current projects we have slated for work, and this is what we're talking about, is the Kirkwood, Hickory, and Foothill projects. Foothill is currently in the letting for March. We can still pull the project, that's not a problem. Hickory and Kirkwood are in design, they're real close to being completed. We can probably get those completed for a May letting. It's a late letting, so prices aren't always going to be the best. The issue we have is funding all 3 projects at one time. And so, in almost every scenario, we're going to have to borrow money for the projects. The question is how much. And then what option we pick depicts on how long our farm to market balance is in the red, close to our 3-year borrow ahead amount. For years, how long it's going to be while it stays there. And a lot of scenarios keep that borrow ahead dollar amount. Where we're doing projects, it keeps us close to that negative 3 years, which doesn't give us a lot of room. I've got it slated with some projects in there, but we're always bumping off of that 3-year borrow ahead instead of bumping off our being in the green or red, being right down the middle is where it'd be nice to be, so we have options for other projects if something comes down. The options we're looking at right now are, we're going to be bumping next to that 3-year borrow ahead instead of being down the middle. So, I don't know if you guys want to have some discussion about it, we can talk about it. I know I gave Jim some information, maybe Jim wants to kind of talk about what he's looked at.
So, you have Foothill in the plans to be done, and it's kind of a redundant statement, but it's in the plans because you feel that's probably the most important one that we need to do right at this time.
Based on traffic counts and how fast it deteriorated in the last 2 years, I'm worried that it's going to deteriorate faster yet. Especially this year, we've got a lot of freeze thaw cycles, so I don't know how the pavement's going to hold up to those. But it takes, it's the second busiest road we have in the county, and I know a lot of thought is do the worst first, but it isn't always the best way to do things. If you've got something that's in repairable shape, to try to fix it before it becomes in disrepairable shape, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. But my job is to take direction from you guys, so whatever you guys want to do, I'm fine with doing. But that's just where we're at. And I'm not saying we wouldn't do Kirkwood and Hickory. It's a matter of funding either or all the projects.
And I have plenty of questions, but I don't want to be, you guys go too. I mean,
Well, Hickory's been in the talk for a long time, it's a narrow road, it's hard to get 2 tractors to the elevator if they meet. That one's been in the talk for a long time. I feel that one should should have some priority too, because of the longevity of people waiting, and I know you said you want to do Kirkwood and Hickory together, because you get a better bid,
I think with the projects being the same,
same,
exactly the same type of project,
yeah.
within that close of distance to each other, I think it makes perfect sense to tie them together and do them as one project. And I do have Scott Sweet with WHKS, he's the consultant that did the design here, he's next to me on my left.
Oh, okay.
So if you've got questions, project schedule wise and things like that, we can help answer those too. But
And then, I don't know, I visited with Dave Falk, and he's willing to donate all the fill for those 2 roads this year if we're gonna do them, you know, so I think that's a plus too.
Yep, there are some cost savings we can come up with too. Right now, after talking yesterday with Scott, there are options, there's subdrain that's been designed for that road, but we can change the base material and get rid of the sub-base, or the subdrain, that'll save us, what was that, Scott, about $350,000 combined? So there's some cost savings we can do in the design to help lower some of that. So.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, they've been waiting a long time.
No, I completely understand the waiting. I'm not saying that, like I said, I'm not saying we wouldn't do it either. It's a matter of, I need help from the board to find the money to do the projects we need to get done.
I would like to do all of these. I would like to do that. The concern I had yesterday as far as when I hear borrow 3 years ahead on our FM funds means no paving for 3 years, but I forgot about the swap part of it. So my question is, if we borrow our 3-year FM funds, we could do construction, dirt work construction this summer, possibly leave it up to contractors for paving in summer of '22. Summer of '23, would that be a swap project? So
No.
you'd still need FM for that?
I'm sorry, we have a swap project slated for 2023, which is Balsam.
Okay. So what I'm saying is we would borrow ahead on our 3 years on our FM, but we really wouldn't need any FM for a while because the next thing after these is a swap project.
Right, which is the following year after 22, so we could have some money. We need, estimated based on project, we need about $600,000. We're using our swap, which there used to be our STP money. We're at 1.5 million for that project, and then we need another 600,000 just from the estimate of the project to do what we're going to do, which is probably a cold in place recycle. We need 600 from our FM account to balance the project cost with the swap. Swap isn't 100%, and that puts our swap borrowed ahead too in our District 2, and it's hard to explain all the funding. I'll get you guys a letter. Well, I think I gave you guys a letter on the funding and how that works. So we'll be borrowed ahead with farm to market. We'll be borrowed ahead in swap for quite a few years. Keep in mind, we do get quarterly statements coming in for farm to market, but when you borrow ahead 3 years and you're getting $870-some thousand a year, it takes a long time to build that money back up. It takes, to do a project of substance, it takes quite a few years. And if you're always borrowing ahead, I mean, we're gonna have to do more than just borrow from farm to market. We're gonna need to do other things. Or find, I guess in my opinion, less effective surface treatments, to do projects. If we've got a road, do we just seal coat it versus trying to put an asphalt layer on it? Other methods of maintenance to keep the surfaces in good shape. They just don't, like a seal coat won't last as long as a hold in place recycle or even a mill and fill, things like that. So I know it's not an easy decision to make for anybody here. It's tough for me to try to figure out where you guys want to go and what we should be doing. So we need to work together and figure out where we want to head and know where our balances are.
How much cheaper is a hold in place recycle versus concrete?
Initial or long run?
Well, initial,
Initially, you're looking at
per mile.
per mile, and these are just estimates, and it depends on how you do it. This is based on past experiences in Worth County, because we haven't done a cold in place more recently here. We did one a couple of years ago in Worth County, so we're looking at $234,000 a mile for a cold in place recycle. And I use a lifespan of 15 years because that's typically when the asphalt surface starts to deteriorate to where we probably need to looking at some other surface treatment again. Now, depending on what we do, a 6-inch concrete overlay is looking at $366,000 a year, which is higher. A 4-inch overlay with fiber would be maybe $250,000 a mile. when you start looking at life cycle costs, and in year 25, for instance, that cold-in-place recycle costs us $390,000 a mile, where the 6-inch overlay still has a lot of life left in it at $261,000 per mile. So there's life cycle costs and there's immediate costs, and I know a lot of times we look at immediate costs and this is what we can afford right now, and you try to put the best product down to kind of give you some longevity. So it's a really tough balance on where we need to head with what we've got in the checkbook and what our options are for surface treatment. So you're right, Mike, the initial costs are cheaper for cold-in-place recycle than they are with concrete, but your concrete longevity, you look at west of Stacyville, I know it's not a smooth road, but structurally the pavement's in okay shape if the ride were better. The Fault Quarry Road, that's 40-some years old, starting to show its age, but has served the public well for a lot of years. So,
Yeah. I just know, there's a lot of roads in the.
yep, we have a lot of roads.
How many years?
Yep.
What is the
You know,
thickness of the cement west of Stacyville and Falls Road?
I think they're 7-inch.
7-inch?
So Kirkwood and Hickory designed for a 7-inch concrete pavement. And I guess if we want to use history as our guide, we get 45 years before we start needing to think about other things. So I mean, it's an expensive investment, but I think it's a long-term investment that we can put these projects or these roadways in the back burner for a long time when we do them.
Well, I'm for one for always doing things right the first time, and concrete is, to me, is the best option. Cold-in-place recycling is an excellent product if you use a good mix design. The Rudd Road and the North Springs Road are the last cold-in-places that we did. We did them in '09, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So you can compare those to everything we did up around McIntyre, because they were done the same year. They're still very good roads. We use an interstate mix design on the surface of them, but they're not as good as what the concrete we put down the same year either.
We tried to keep up on those roads, Jim. We tried to keep up. We're trying to keep the thermal cracks sealed so we can keep the water out, but it just got more and more expensive every year. And with our climate around here, the freeze-thaw cycles, depending on how the winter is, it could wreak havoc on any pavement, not just the asphalt. But those roads, I think, is it the Rudd Road that's showing more wheel rutting than the other one because of the elevator south of there? I mean, there's additional wheel stripping and stuff like that in the wheel tracks. So I mean, there's some deterioration going on with those pavements too.
On glass, we put that special coat on there. Did that ever come to fruition of any?
We're not seeing much with the longevity of whether that surface treatment in that mile shows a difference or not. I mean, I thought maybe we'd see something more immediate within a couple years, but then the product does not last forever. So I'm not one to think that product's gonna do us any good, but it was a good test to find out whether it was gonna do anything or not. And maybe in 10 years or another 10 years, maybe we'll see that maybe that side isn't deteriorated. It's a slow process when you're looking for what those products are gonna do.
But you said concrete lasts 30 years. We've had issues with cement already.
We have with those 4-inch overlays, yep. Now,
You went out to Stacyville, and there's 15, 20 spots that are busted. So.
yep. And that's a trend that nobody knew about when they put them down. I know that Highway 65 south of Northwood is a similar pavement with a lot of the similar issues with the problem we have in this climate is heat, thermal expansion and contraction, a lot of it. And I know I've maybe explained it to some of you guys, but on a pavement, you need the joints to expand and contract. On those designs that came out of Wisconsin years and years ago, the thought was back then, this is what we have in our toolbox, let's do 4-inch overlays because we can saw the joints narrower so we can keep all the non-compressible materials out, and this pavement will last a long time. You got a good base of the asphalt underneath, and so that was the tendency that that Jim Hyde started back in 2009. And so what we found out now through research and everything else that we've been doing, and I've been a part of that, just between both counties, is we're finding out that these pavements, when you put them down as a 4-inch overlay with all the saw joints, not all the joints activate right away like they would if they were spaced. Concrete naturally will crack anywhere from 40 to 60 feet, just naturally before you saw it. So when you have all these other little joints in this pavement, they're still gonna naturally crack at that 40 and 60 feet. Now what that does is it relieves the stresses off between all those other cracks, and they might not all activate. Research has shown that some of these joints that we saw don't activate for over a year. Well, now that you've had all your stresses relieved, you've got this hairline crack at a saw joint, you've got these bigger ones on the outside, and because they're bigger, they end up taking some of the non-compressible materials, and when you get freeze thaw, that little hairline crack doesn't give that pavement any room to move but up. And with heavier truck traffic, I think there's some harmonic things going on with the stresses we've got going on, and that's what causes these things to buckle. What we're doing now with these pavements, knowing, kind of have an idea of what we've got going on, we're sawing some expansion joints every 500 feet to kind of relieve those stresses, so we can make that pavement last longer. But yes, 4 inches of concrete has been, depending on what road you're on and how much traffic it sees, hasn't been the best thing, but we got a lot of miles down there, a lot of good miles out there too.
And the thickness that you've been designing, since the 4 inches, you've been up to like 5 and 6.
Yep, we've gone since the last, I think the last 4-inch overlay we did was Stacyville to McIntyre. And since then, we've put down 6 inches. A minimum of 6 inches, and I know that we've done, 105 was 6 inches, and then south of Osage was 6 inches with a fiber reinforcement in it. To give it some more durability. So,
It also takes more chemical and maintenance on cement than asphalt. Cement will slick up quicker than blacktop will.
there's that whole, you can look at it from a couple different ways. Sometimes the asphalt will heat up sooner than the concrete will, so it might get warm and it might hold. Depending on the weather and the temperature, that can be true and it can be false. A lot of times it is. Black will absorb the heat and melt off quicker, or the concrete won't. Sometimes the concrete will freeze dry better than the asphalt, because if the asphalt gets warm enough to warm up and get wet, and then you get a cold night then you got stuff sticking to the pavement where the concrete may not stick because it never got warm enough. There's a whole mess of thermal and everything else going on in there that's hard to track. But it can go both ways, Mark. You're right. That the asphalt will heat up faster and maybe clean off faster too. But
From experience,
no,
I've noticed it.
and I notice it too. One is the other. It depends on what the weather's going to do. So
Actually, salt's kind of a problem for both. The salt is corrosive, and that starts them little cracks.
salt wreaks havoc on aggregates, and
So salt is kind of our problem too.
no,
That's another discussion.
there's 100 ways to skin a cat here. We just got to find one that works for everybody.
Right.
How much money do you need to do if we're gonna do everything this year?
That all depends on if we're gonna borrow the farm market down to zero or not.
How much money do you need?
Well, if we could keep the farm market healthy and just borrow for Hickory and Kirkwood, we need to borrow 6.1 million and leave the farm market account alone with Foothill where it's at, which that's not an option, right? There's not enough for that. So I think we need to look at, if we were doing everything and bury in the farm market account, I think we're looking close to probably 3.1 million, 3.7 million, I think, or 3.1, I can't remember for sure. These numbers have changed since I gave them to you last, but I talked to DOT on Friday and they had some updated information. And I spent a lot of time last night trying to factor everything in here, and it's hard to come up with an estimated cost when we don't know what the letting is and we don't know how much farm to market money we got coming in. But I think if we were at 3.7 million to borrow, that would keep us on top of things. Right now, we have 5.3 million to borrow ahead, so that takes care of Hickory and Kirkwood, it takes care of Kirkwood, and then the additional money would be for Foothill and, what did I say? Kirkwood would take all of our borrow ahead money, and then we'd have to borrow for Foothill and Hickory, and that'd be about 3.3 million, but there's still some right-of-way we need to purchase, so that's why I think I said 3.7. And we don't know what the costs are, so.
We borrow ahead 5.3 million in FM funding, we need to borrow from TIF. We would need to borrow from TIF approximately 3.2 or 3.3 million.
I'd be comfortable at 3.5, but yeah.
Jim, could you say those numbers again?
If Rich proposed that if we were to do everything, we would need to borrow ahead on the FM fund $5.3 million. He would need that much money to do the, out of the FM. And then we would need the remaining of it, we'd have to have a funding source of some type, and TIF is the only thing that we have as an option. That'd be I have 3.2 million down, he just said 3.3 to 3.5, so.
We'll have, you know, we can have cost savings in some of these other projects we don't know about yet until we let them. But keep in mind that we're maxing out the farm to market account, so it's gonna take several years. What I've got now is we're probably floating around, negative 2.7 years for the next 4 years, and then when we get a bigger project coming up, we could be buried again. So we're teetering on that level of.
But I mean, I don't know how you're gonna do them.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know it.
It's just, I mean, you either do them or you don't do them.
Right.
And then we just don't pave roads. I just don't know an option.
Right, no, and if we've gotta take the farm to market account that low, we can do that. We just gotta be very cognizant of what we're doing next. And so, I mean, this is doable, it's just finding the money to do it.
But your next thing that's coming up is gonna be a swap project.
Yep. And that shows that we'll have some money there to cover that, but by then we'll be borrowed 2.5 years ahead versus 3. So we don't have a whole lot of cushion there. And who knows, I'm not quite sure what's coming down the pipeline with the COVID relief or any other transportation bill that's coming yet. There might be some changes there. So
We don't have any reserve from last year, since we only did a mile.
that's where I saved the farm to market account because I knew these bigger projects were coming up.
So taking Foothill off the project list doesn't help at all.
That just kicks the can down the road another year, and then we still gotta borrow for it because the account would be.
How about changing Foothill from 6-inch concrete to that put-in-place asphalt? You'll save $132,000 a mile. That'll free up about $800,000.
Good.
You know.
Pull it out, redesign
You know,
it.
as long as we got so much to do, we don't have
No,
money. We got it. You know, you say it don't last as long, how did I mean? Well, look at what we got going on. So, you know, sometimes
Should last 15 years, I wonder.
Yeah, and then 15 years, you gotta figure out something
because
else.
it's got a good base. It don't have frost wells. It don't have nothing. You know.
Some of that wheel routing is losing some base, but nope, you're right. I mean, we can redesign it, I don't have a problem with that, I just know the last board wanted concrete, that's what we put down, that's what we designed for. What's that? No, I know, it's just difficult for me when the last board, we put it in a program while they're still in office, we get it to a letting, and then another board comes in and wants to change it, that's all I'm saying. So, no, we can change things.
We got money issues with this, so, you know, you gotta do something.
And it does free up, it will free up farm market money for the future, but 15 years is not 30.
No, I realize that. You have a-
But we know, right?
You have a lot of blacktop roads, and you're gonna do put in place on other blacktop roads too. You're not gonna concrete everything.
No.
So,
You would still need to borrow $2.5 million then on TIF, right?
For,
to do all this year.
If we would go with that grind and relay.
You know, you're saying 3.5, but if you did that, you'd
oh, yeah.
800, you know, that'll bring it.
Well, there's no way I can redesign it and get it into a letting this year anyway, so you figure on next year, and then we'll figure out where the balances are then. But
Oh, you mean for Foothill can't be redesigned?
not to make a letting this season, no. No, there's not to make the DOT letting.
Why is it? Okay. Well, I mean, that could be done in September, can't it? I mean,
The contractors.
That's the next,
what's that?
that's the next, we gotta talk about fiscal years and construction seasons. To do it, to get a project, to pull a project out of the letting and put it in the DOT letting, you're looking at a 5 to 6 month turnaround on preliminary plans, check plans, and all the other stuff that goes with it.
Yeah.
So
Foothill.
you would be shoving Foothill back another year then.
Yeah, we can set Foothill up to be paid, to be let next December or earlier, I guess, but.
Yeah, 'cause it's not in terrible shape anyway. I don't feel anybody's, you getting complaints on it? I haven't heard from.
It's not necessarily just the visual thing as far as, and it will probably last a year in order to cold in place it, but you have to have a decent base to actually cold in place. If you're, that one will probably hold, my opinion, will probably hold up
Yep.
for a year for
I
cold
think-
in place, but if your base is crap,
Oh, yeah, I
You
understand
can't-
that, yeah.
And it's
I
an
shouldn't
existing
even say
cold in
crap,
place
but-
recycle. not the same as if it was 12 inches of asphalt mix. A cold in place recycle isn't the same structural number as regular asphalt concrete pavement, so.
But then you top coat it also.
Yep, we put a layer on top,
How many inches you put on top? Couple?
probably 3.
3? In one shot or 2?
No, they'll have to do 2 lifts.
2.
One to get some ride, and the other one to, well, one to kind of level, the other one to get the final ride. So we can do 3 or 4, just depends on.
So could they do the dirt work and pave Kirkwood this year?
I think that if we're gonna do this, I think we really need to be flexible with the contractors and allow them to stretch it through a couple seasons because we are so late. If we get to a May letting, you know, I've talked to a dirt contractor, they don't seem like they're starving for work. The paving contractors being this late, they might already be, if they're a May letting, they're already out the door trying to start projects. If we can say, hey, look, you're under contract and you've got a project for next year to start out the door, we might see some better pricing if we let them, give them a little bit of flexibility in the contract to do that. So looking at the cross sections and stuff, a lot of the base of Hickory and Kirkwood will kind of stay in place. A lot of the fill needs to go up on the sides. There are some spots on the profile that need some fill over the existing road bed, and that's where some of the cut and fill comes in. But for the most part, a lot of the dirt work can be taking place outside most of the existing paved surface. So if we did some work this year, some of the road surface could stay depending on which one they want to do. You know, we could be flexible enough to say, hey, look, we want the dirt work done on this contract, and maybe they got enough time to do Hickory, and maybe the paver contractor comes in and says, well, we can do pave Hickory before winter, and maybe that works, and Kirkwood, you know, has some dirt work done and then gets paid in the next season. It's just, if we be flexible with the contract, we might see some benefit to costs savings.
So if we did the dirt work, we wouldn't have to borrow the money to pave it till next year?
It doesn't work that way with the farm to market account, because when you let the project, they look at it from when you let it, how much you're gonna need, because whether you look at it, I tried to figure that out too at the DOT, and it makes things a lot more complicated when you start piecemealing it in. They go from how much you need at the letting date, and that's how much they obligate, and then they work from there. So I wish it was that easy, you could space it off that way, but it just doesn't work that way when you do a complete project like that. It would make life a lot simpler. You could piecemeal a project like that. And this is the first, I don't know, this is the first reconstruction we've done in forever.
And then by doing the dirt work, and if it did have some time, it'd be good for it to settle.
It may, yep.
I mean, that,
Yep.
But I don't know, the cross sections, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to, you know, we're not widening the road that much.
right. Just-
So we're gonna, I really don't think that I'm not really worried about any settlement over the road.
Because
the
the
road
shoulder's about 2 foot there.
Right, so you're basically gonna use the structure that's already there in that road that's been there for 100 years. Really, the earthwork and the dirt work is to cut new ditches, flatten out the force slopes and the back slopes. So I'm not really, you know, too concerned about any settlement or needing any time for that. And we're not really changing the profile of the road, and we can't really change the elevation of the ditches. It's just basically moving them out. So there, you know, we're probably talking 2 or 3 feet of, you know, cutting a ditch 2 or 3 feet, 5 foot closer to the field. You know, that's really what we're working at. We're not really, I think there's one spot where we've got a couple feet of fill, just to try to get rid of a
Curve issue.
a vertical curve issue. But otherwise, I'm not really concerned with any, you know, settlement that's gonna take place on the roadway portion.
No, it's got pretty good base under it. I don't remember how many inches of that 6-inch did we haul in, and then we put in 4 or 5 inches of choke stone with a mix.
So we'll probably get into that choke stone, but if that macadam's that deep, we gotta take out probably what? The surface?
The surface, and then another,
enough for
well, we're
base
planning
rock.
7 inches of concrete and 6 inches of base rock. So we're looking at 13 inches. Then we're staying pretty close to existing profile, just because we start raising it, we start impacting, you know, more right of way. So, and if you're lowering it, then we're creating problems with having shallow ditches. So we're pretty much right at the same grade that it is right now.
That road did have shallow ditches in it years ago, because when I used to run through there plowing snow, it was a gravel then. And on a wet or blizzard, that was rain first, and then we got a foot of snow, I would plow through 6 inches of water in that road at that intersection.
And there's no room for snow storage when they're that shallow, so.
Yeah, and that was at that intersection that's just south of Ed's place.
Mhm.
Well, I'll just plug concrete just one more time, we just have to also keep in mind binder prices for next year.
Yeah, we don't know, we do not know what
They
oil
shut
prices
down
are
the
gonna do.
pipeline, I mean, he obviously does not like oil compared to what we have had now, and so that could
And we
definitely
keep an eye on that too, and you and I,
asphalt, when I say binder, that's the asphalt that goes in the
Oh,
product.
okay.
you know, and to go back to history again, in 2009, that's where the county was too, where asphalt was astronomically expensive and it just didn't fit the mold. And there were other options that were cost effective when we tipped all those roads to get a new driving service back on, so.
Well,
So you guys give me some direction and we'll,
what is the idea, what is the plan, what,
Well, I would make a motion to hold off on Foothill and concentrate on these other two.
I'll second that.
Second that?
I had a motion, and I have a second. We'll have to have a roll call vote on this, and I will start with Todd. Do you understand what this motion is? Todd?
Yeah, I just want to ask, that is the dirt work that, on Foothill also though, right?
there was no dirt
There's
work.
no
There's no dirt
work
work
for
for
Foothill.
Okay, so,
It was
leave
just,
Foothill alone and complete Hickory and Kirkwood.
Yes.
correct. So, this is a roll call, so either you're for it or you're against it. What is your call?
Yeah, I'll go yay.
Mark?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Nay, nay.
I will go yay, aye. So, this motion has passed. And again,
This gives us good direction so we can focus on what we need to get done now, so.
Yep.
Once we're gonna start getting on some right-of-way stuff here, you have contacted the right-of-way people, and so we'll get scheduling going and hit that May letting, and be flexible with,
How do you set a price for ground?
what's that?
Is there,
How do they,
Probably not yet, not until they get up there and start talking to the landowners, or, I guess what we'll do is I'll talk to the right-of-way people that we'll hire as a sub-consultant to WHKS. They're out of Nevada, JCG. We have the plats all done. This needs, what we're doing is we're widening, we're buying approximately 7 foot of, well, we are buying 7 foot of right-of-way along the entire strip of the road to be able to fit ditches back in. So, we need to have, just so I can sort of give you the schedule, so we'll probably look at here in the next week or two, probably try to have a public information meeting, get everybody that's a property owner along both roads in to talk about the project. The plans are probably 98% done, we've already submitted them once to the DOT for their review, so we've got a few comments, a few
you
things.
got a few things to change
that
as
Rich
far
and I
as.
talked about yesterday, adding some rumble strips in. Maybe we're gonna look at taking out the sub-drain and putting clip of backfill in instead of the modified, so that'll be, a cost savings.
Detour stuff.
Some detour that we were gonna have the county do, but we'll have the contractor do.
Notes on flexibility for paving and
Yeah,
grading.
we'll have to redo the staging and come up with some dates for them to be able to do this. So there's a few things we need to revise. Have the public hearing, we'll need to submit the plans again, I think at the beginning of March, to make the May letting. And you're asking the contractor to be flexible, you may have to be flexible to get 40 people to agree to sign up on the right of way within the next 2 months is gonna be a challenge, so we're gonna need maybe some help from the board to go out there too and talk to people and, talk about this project.
Yeah.
But basically, we need to submit final plans for the DOT to review at the beginning of March. We'll probably have to write a public interest finding because we won't have all the right of way purchased by then. But that needs to be done by April, first Tuesday in April, to make the May letting, to get FHWA authorization of the project. If that doesn't happen, and they don't, or the FHWA, it may be June. But what we're looking at then as far as schedule for the project is as soon as we can get them out there, start doing the dirt work, I don't feel there's gonna be any paving done this year, I don't think there'll be enough time, just so you guys are aware of that. But then again, we're gonna allow that contractor to bid on this project, have it, be able to start paving probably, or pavement removals and stuff in April. So that's where we're hoping that we get better prices, as they know they have this job for next year. I mean, for a contractor, that's a great thing. And then to have, 4.5 miles on Kirkwood, and excuse me, sometimes I'll probably call it Kingbird because I have another project on Kingbird, I get confused sometimes. And those two, and then Hickory together, I mean, that to them is probably an ideal situation, being, basically the same design. So we're looking at that, so, we're gonna do everything we can to get maybe June, but, I mean, the dirt work and probably culverts this year, get the new culverts in, that way, we're gonna have to open trench those through the road. So over the winter, you're probably gonna have some, gravel patches, I think there's 15 or 20 culverts that are gonna go across there. At least that way, getting those in this year gives you that chance for the settlement for those trenches to happen. And then basically, 4.5 miles of paving is a long, takes a while, so it's gonna probably take most of next season, to do that. We also wanna make sure, put some constraints in there around harvest season, so that we don't have a bunch of closures, when we're trying to haul to the, different elevators and things like that, but it's gonna take a lot to get it even done by the end of next year. I mean, we have wet, you always have weather, things like that, but, that's sort of the plan that I sort of see as far as schedule moving ahead and what we need to do. We also need to talk to the utility companies. There may be some underground telephone out there, and then getting the power poles will have to be relocated. Luckily, we're only dealing with a couple feet, so I think we could, coordinate. They're moving their poles at the same time as we're doing some of the earthwork. But we'll get them notice, here this week and get everything rolling. And go ahead and try to make that May letting with everything we can do, so.
So what happens if that one landowner doesn't want to give up his 4 feet, he just take it?
Well, then that's a decision of the Board of Supervisors if you want to, go to condemnation. The condemnation probably takes about 6 months, but you can, as long as we know that before we let the plan, and there's I'm trying to think of the proper word, but if they're virtually assured that you're going to get the property, that will allow the project to move on. And basically, there's a note in the plans then that says they don't have access to that parcel, that strip of land where they need to do their grading, until a certain date, and that's when the that's the date of the condemnation hearing. So, I think it sounds like to me, we're looking at 7 feet, and we're gonna minimize anything in front of any taking or any impacts. I would recommend we take the 7 feet so that you have a constant right-of-way strip all the way through there instead of 33 feet here, 40 here, it just makes.
And we know there's some situations with some landowners that have trees and things like that we're being cognizant of,
Yeah.
so.
So we want to buy the whole thing, but we may not impact the whole 7 feet. That's why we want to give that meeting in here where we have the cross sections done. We can show them at their parcel where we're taking, what we're taking. So hopefully that we don't have a lot of that. But and if we have to change things, during construction to minimize anything else, we can always do a contract modification or do some sort of change in the plans to help those people out. But the important thing is to get them in here in the next couple of weeks so that they're on board, so that when the right-of-way company goes out and starts talking to them and getting their appraisal, that they're willing to do that, willing to have those people, especially now with the pandemic. Some people don't want to necessarily meet their house. We may have to have the meetings here to sign all the right-of-way.
I think we're looking at what, about 8.5 acres combined?
Total
Both
8.5
projects.
acres. And I don't know if somebody will sell it for $2,000 an acre. If it's in the front of their house, they may say $10,000 an acre. It's really that's why we hire this JCG out of Nevada, because this is what they do. I mean, they work with us on pretty much every project we do, or we have to buy right away. So we have a good relationship with them, and they are very good at what they do. So that's sort of my spiel on how we're planning to move forward. But I wanna make sure you have the right expectations, that it's not gonna be this year that it's gonna be done, and I mean, it'll be done next year. But, you know, there may be some progress this fall, and that's where Rich was talking about, you need to be, flexible with the contractor, you know.
If we set hard deadlines, we're gonna get
You're-
terrible pricing
Yeah.
and maybe nobody bidding.
Yeah, that's the fear with that, if you're saying, well, you have to have this done, this done, this done. And, you know, you may wanna look at too, we may set up that you know, you can close down a mile, you know. You can close this mile down and do the culverts and then get it open before you go. We don't want the whole 4.5 miles shut down at once.
And based on our experience with other concrete paving, south of Osage, you know, we use maturity to open up pavement now. It's a pretty quick turnaround for locals to get back into their property rather efficiently. That's been the caveat we've had for a lot of years, is that, yeah, it's concrete and you got it closed for a little while, but with the maturity testing and everything else, we can get the public back into their houses in a pretty quick turnaround while the project's still underway.
I know you said maybe you need help talking to landowners. Is that-
Well, if we have some concerns with a concerned landowner, you know, to help them understand the project, you know, besides me or JCG talking to them.
I'd be willing to go
Yeah.
talk to people like that.
I don't, you know, really talking to Rich, I think this is a pretty project that's pretty well accepted, people along the route want. I don't really see a
Have
problem.
you heard anything out of the ordinary?
You know, so,
everybody wants it.
you know, and again, it's only, I don't wanna say only, but it's 7 feet, and you're basically taking a ditch and sliding it a little bit closer to the farm field, so.
So the road's gonna be 2 foot wider each way, but you need that extra.
Right, we're gonna go with,
We're going with a 24-foot wide pavement, and then depending on how we stripe it, it could be a 4-foot shoulder or a 3-foot shoulder, depending on how we want to stripe it. We want a 22-foot wide top with a 1-foot concrete shoulder and a 3-foot aggregate. There's plenty of ways to do this, but we're gonna have a wider road because we know the truck traffic
Yes.
on Kirkwood, and we know the farm traffic coming in Totterville is just struggle.
The top paving's gonna be 2 foot wide, correct?
4-foot
or
wide. combined.
2 foot on the
Yeah,
side.
2 foot each way is what I
Yeah,
meant.
yeah, 2 foot each way, but then some of the slopes that are out there on the four slopes are, you know, 2 to 1, and
Yeah, and you gotta make.
And we need to make-
We've got certain requirements to meet
For
when we do
the
those.
slopes.
so that's why it sort of just pushes everything out.
Yep.
So.
Makes sense.
Okay, is there any other comments from anybody? All right,
We'll move ahead and work through this then.
We'll move on. Approved wellness contract. Shannon.
Tammy Jurgen, you have to officially, the Board of Supervisors has to approve the county employees with our Blue Cross Blue Shield contract with ISAC, which there's 24 counties that participate in the insurance program. You have to sign off that you want to participate in the wellness. The criteria this year is going to be based primarily on people doing an assessment and getting their physical submitted. So that's what we're going to be graded on. Certain percentage of assessments gets us a percentage of a point, and for every point, up to 5 points, you get a percentage off of our insurance. In the last 4 to 5 years, every point is approximately $8,000 off premiums. And since I've been on the board, and on this committee, we've gotten 5% every year, which is $40,000 savings every year. It's easy money as far as I'm concerned. Sometimes we have to scramble at the end of the year to get those extra assessments done so that we get our 5, but as long as we stay on top of it, we do get it. That's the county's catch on it. The employees this year, to do their physical, it used to be $25. This year, because we got that accidental plan added to all the employees' plans, for those who did ever have Aflac before, there is an incentive to get a physical done. So to get your physical done through the accident program, we're going to submit a claim, everyone does individually, they'll get $75 straight out from the Aflac like accident company for doing a physical. So that's money they don't have to claim, they'll get a check right away. Then on the table for doing the assessment, they'll get $25, and they can do up to 4 wellness pillars, which I sent you guys the link out to that. And so at the end of the program, October 31st, in November, they'll get up to $125. That extra $100 is just the incentive for the employees to get it, county used to get graded on that, but because of COVID in the last couple of years, they've just said, it's the way to get it. We just graded on employees doing physicals and employees doing assessments. So I would propose that we do it again this year. This contract is the same as it's been the last 5 years. I just need the board to sign it, and then we'll submit it to ISAC that we're gonna participate. It's totally voluntary, but it's $40,000 on the table, and it also, that percentage is also on family plan. That's all of our plans at discount, so if we have employees that have a family plan, 5% is quite a discount on the $900 and some premium, I think it is now. $45 a month that they pay.
Okay, so I guess we need to have some motions here then. So,
I'll move to approve the wellness contract.
Jim has made a motion, do we have a second?
I will second it.
Mike has seconded it. I think we can go with a roll call on this one, can't we, Rachel?
Yes.
Let's go with a roll call. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, say nay. Hearing none, we've approved this.
The second thing I have to propose is that we do have in the roads employees contract that if they don't participate to the fullest extent, they have to pay money back. Essentially, they don't get all the $125. I would propose this year because of COVID that the board waive that, just because it's not fair. Everybody's just been crazy, and I don't think that the roads employees, actually it's all employees would have to have part of their $125 reduced based on their participation in wellness. So I would request that the board make a motion to waive that for this year and reconsider next year.
I'll move to waive that.
You're gonna do it for 2 years. You would do it for last year and for this year because of COVID. I don't think anything's gonna change
I'll
this year.
move to waive that for 2 years.
I'll second that.
Jim has made a motion, Mark has seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed say nay. Hearing none, that has passed.
The last thing is the wellness committee members. I'm presuming Steve's still on. I haven't heard. Are you still on wellness?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we do have to submit a list of employees that are on the committee. My question is, because we had department changes, auditor had 2 representatives and public health had 2. Normally, each department has 1 representative. So currently myself, I will volunteer to be chair then just because I've got all the papers and everything.
Thank you.
We have Lindsay Uhlenhoff and Renee Roll, both of the auditor's office. Do you want to continue that, or do you want just one to attend the meetings? Ashley Trenton and Christine Hackemiller, both for public health. Then that could be an alternate, they wouldn't have to both attend. Danielle Dorsey does conservation. Emily Bergerman, as part of the new position, would continue in Julie's place for the sheriff's office. Melissa Tussler does secondary roads, Lori King does landfill, and then Steve would be the required board member that attends. Is that okay with everyone?
I'm happy with it.
Consensus okay?
Leave it as is then.
All right. We were gonna have a meeting next week, but I don't know if you're aware of having knee surgery on Thursday. So we will not be having a meeting next week, but we are required to meet, I think, 3 times a year in keynotes, but
All right.
we
Let
get the
me
job
know
done.
when you want to have that meeting.
Yeah, and we can always do it Zoom as well. I got the contract. This one's for you.
So you're right back up again on our
Yes.
next. So moving on, we're done with the wellness contract then?
Yep.
Okay, so Shannon, you are up for the semi-annual report. We'll let you have the floor again.
This is a required report every 6 months. I know Todd and Jim, when they were down one day, I don't know if you guys have seen it, every month, so in the next few days, you will get a report from my office that has all the balances, all the checking accounts. So you essentially are getting a report, how much money the county has at one's lifetime. This is our 6-month report. It shows you from, from July 1 till December 31st, what the county had balanced prior, the revenues we got, is the second column, the total accumulated disbursements, how much of that department or of that fund spent in the last 6 months, and then the ending fund balance. last column is outstanding warrants, which is the checks you guys approved for payments. Some of those might change because there is a policy in the next month or so that we'll review and see if they have old warrants, and then we will void those warrants and put the money back in the funds. We don't usually have a whole lot of them, but it does happen. A couple people will have money. So the beginning balance for the county was $10,363,781.24. The ending balance was $13,032,915.36 with outstanding warrants of $39,423. And then the next page, this is what you guys will normally see every month. That just says all of our accounts. You don't have the account numbers, but you know what the accounts are and the balances. In each bank, we have money in every bank in the county. And our money is only in Mitchell County. Some counties do invest money down in Des Moines. So recently, I just got notified from First Citizens that everyone's going down 0.1% interest. We were at 0.25. Home Trust has been running at 0.55 for good accounts, or 0.3. So we do really well. I did have a lot of money in CDs, and at CUSD I had 600,000 and 100,000. That 600,000 down here has been pulled out because we're only going to get 0.1% on interest on the CDs, and we have to commit that money to 6 to 12 months. So I said, I plan out putting in savings because if CD rates go up, I don't want that money encumbered at that low of a percent because we're getting the same thing having it sit in savings. So we'll be pulling those that 100,000 is coming out this month, and I think the last 100,000 will come out as well, just because I don't want to commit money at that low rate if I could possibly make a switch in the next 2 months. Knock on wood, hopefully interest rates go up. So, so that's the status of the county. The last page is just a summary of our month, our year, 6-month end. So, and we would ask that county auditor sign it, and then every board member has to sign this, and then once it's all signed, then Rachel will submit it to the papers to have it published, because we're required by law to publish it. Any questions? The auditor, when they do our audit, this is one form that they would look for. So, anytime you guys have questions.
Good.
Okay, I do have a question.
Okay.
The next, number 9, consideration and possible action of agreement with Renner Burkham. What do you think of Renner Burkham?
I think Elizabeth, I think does well. I've got a good repertoire. We've had issues in the last year, just silly stuff that when we talk to the Department of Revenue, they say talk to your auditor. They always say talk to your auditor. I've had good response from Elizabeth, and Mike was here last time. He's always courteous and he does a good job. And with conservation, I don't know if you guys are aware of the issue with conservation where they have some overgrass with CSD, and we were just going to deal with it, and Daniel was going to take care of it. And when we let Mike and Mary Virgin know, he said, call them, tell them to take those overdraft fees off. You guys keep enough money in that bank. So that saved like $80 out of $350. So, I mean, they give us good advice, and they are local. So I don't have any problem with them.
Thank you, that's what I want to hear. Thank you, Shannon.
Okay.
We will move on to
Did you
number
do a
9.
motion to have?
We got
Not yet,
sign?
no.
We gotta approve her report.
Oh, so we do, I thought
You have to
maybe we
approve
had
and
to
sign.
approve it in another time.
No.
All right, so,
I'll make a motion to approve treasurer's report.
Mark has made a motion,
I will second that.
Mike has seconded, so this is gonna be a roll call then. Todd, all those in favor, no, roll call, Todd,
Yay.
yay, yay, so, Mark,
Yes.
aye, Mike,
Aye.
aye, Jim,
Aye.
and Smollett, aye, so this is all ayes, so this is unanimous, so this has been approved. And so we just as well sign it then, get it done.
Yeah, I'll do it. She'll be excited at the end. Thank you.
So we don't have to sign it, that's kind of why I did
She's gonna have to do it at the end of the meeting.
Thank you.
All right. On number 9, consideration and possible action of agreement with Renner Burkham. And Rachel, I'll let you have the floor so you can give your opinion.
I have been here for, well, 2 years, and any question I have, I usually, depending if I don't need an answer right away, I'll email Elizabeth or I can call her. I usually get a response within an hour if I email her, with an answer. So I personally like running. I've given you guys a copy of Mike's letter, along with his agreement to look through. I have heard the previous company, they do serve a lot more counties than what Brennan and Bertram do, so it is a little bit harder to get responses right away. You're kind of at their mercy of when they're available. So it's up to you guys what you would like to do.
Okay, is there any comment from board members?
So you have no complaints or no problems with this?
I haven't, no.
The only thing I would wonder about as far as the pricing with anybody else, I mean, they submitted their prices and is this similar to what they charged us before, or?
I believe so. I know the previous company was more expensive than these guys, and that was part of the reason we did go with them as well.
And the last time these people did work for us, it was comparable. I mean, they didn't hike their rates up this time,
No.
what they're proposing.
No.
Okay.
I want to say it was right around the 20,000.
Okay.
Roughly what it was.
The other company was more expensive, you kind of do have two bids, you know, two prices.
Yeah, and I mean, that was a few years ago. I don't know exactly how long it's been with Brennan Bertram.
Typically, you should, I mean, you should actually send out proposals as far as to get quotes from the people if you're wondering about different prices, not base it off of what they did a long time ago.
Right.
That's actually the right way to do it.
No changes, yeah.
So is there any more, Jim?
No, I'm good.
Is there any other comments or questions? Okay. Do we have any motions for any?
They are local too, so. I would make a motion to continue with them.
Mike has made the motion, Mark has seconded, and we're gonna have a roll call again, so. Todd? What did-
Aye.
Aye. Mark?
Yes.
Aye. Mike?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Smollett, aye. So again, this is everybody is for, so this has been approved. For the agreement with Renner Burkham for 3 years, on my understanding, correct? 3 years. Okay. We will slide down to number 10, and Chris, you are here, and I will let you have the floor.
I'll start out by passing this out.
Thank you.
It's a background on mitigation planning, hazard mitigation planning. And Todd, I'll send what I'm passing out, I'll send that email to you if that's okay.
Yes, that'd be perfect, thank you.
You bet. So every 5 years, Mitchell County has to go through the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. In the past, we've always hired NICOG to do this for us. It was suggested that I do it on my own, well, me being a little bit green with my position. I dove into it, started to, I had meetings with our cities around the county here initially, kick it off, and went ahead and even did our threat assessments with a few of the towns as far as what their concerns were and how they rate threats, whether it be man-made threats or natural disaster threats, and how they affect their communities and their capabilities on how to withstand those threats and how to alleviate the stress of those threats to their communities and stuff. Then I got to thinking, you know, if I don't have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, and FEMA doesn't want my plan or doesn't like this plan, and I was just looking at maybe updating the original plan, the current plan. And I thought, yeah, So there's a grant out there, it's called the Hazard Mitigation Grant Plan that the federal government will offer. They'll pay 75% of the fees that NICOG will give us. So their final numbers, and I've checked with another firm out of Des Moines, it's a little bit cheaper with NICOG, and my budget could withstand, the total price was over $28,000 to do this 5-year plan. And my budget will withstand that $7,500 to do it for 5 years, so I went ahead and hired them. I feel that the cities, they kick in to my budget yearly, the county kicks in my budget yearly. Why wouldn't I pay for it? I don't know who paid for it in the past, if the county did or what, but it doesn't matter. I think this is the right thing to do, is to come out of the emergency management budget. So, just listening to Rich on secondary roads and stuff, you know, most of our disaster, the disaster funds that we incur are usually to do with secondary roads, bottom line, I think. The last time I was helping out with Ray Hoftelin, my predecessor, our threat, or our disaster benchmark, dollar-wise, is around, it's figured about $3.70 per capita for our county. You take that times around 10,500 people, you're looking around $40,000 is our benchmark where we can declare a disaster for our county, and county roads blew that out of the water, as well as conservation. That was that ice event that destroyed a bunch of roads and flooded out some roads, but I don't think FEMA pays a whole lot back to incur those. That's why it's important to mitigate and open up new culverts, putting the new culverts in, cleaning culverts out, making the ditches a little bit, you know, so it can flow water away from our areas and stuff. So yeah, that's what we're looking at. And it's a process where we need to meet. I believe all 5 of us, you know, all 5 board members, invite public, whoever you want to invite, to come to these meetings and talk about what they want to see, what they want to mitigate, what they want to look at, what threats they're concerned with. It's an open discussion, open forum. We'll go through the rating process together. NICOG will weigh it out with the communities involved, ranging, you know, from Carpenter, McIntyre, St. Ansgar, all the incorporated areas, you know, and they'll make this a mass plan, a county plan that covers the whole community, not just little bits and pieces, but it's the whole community we're looking at. So, look at mitigation strategies. How to alleviate those problems? Does, like St. Ansgar, you need a new tornado siren. There might be some grants out there once we get this finalized that will be, you know, that we can get a hold of and stuff. Any questions thus far? I want to make this short and sweet and just kind of make this a kickoff and let you guys know what's going on.
I guess this meeting would be in an evening then sometime?
We can do it right after.
Anytime.
We can do it right after we're all here, after the regular
Okay.
business meeting.
That would work out, I think.
Right. So I'll get together and find out if throw some dates out to folks and go from there.
So like mitigation, what you talk about as far as culverts, use culverts as an example, so this funding source would actually pay secondary roads to go out and clean some of these inlet, outlet ends of culverts, so to speak, is that what you're saying?
I don't know if, I'll have to research a little bit more on that to see if there are funds for, you know, making ditches deeper, putting a new culvert. It's looking at problem spots around the county. So if you got something reoccurring in the same spot, something needs to be done, right? You know, a bigger culvert, a waterway, talking to a farmer, hey, you know, we need to do something different here. We're having the same issue here, it's getting washed out the same spot. You know, we're pouring money into the same problem. We need to do something.
So as far as roads, the engineer would be the one that would maybe determine that?
You should be here.
Or if there's something else that's going on,
Exactly.
an individual that says, well, this is a problem that we have.
Right.
They would contact you and,
Yeah, or you can or find out, or have Rich find out where the problem spots are, and maybe talk to, you know, is something getting backed up and flooding somebody's home? You know what I mean? Well, we're you know, and this is just one example. We're talking hazardous materials. We're talking tornado threats. What we can do. Talking with Sammy Sharper, I think we're well over half, almost 70% of the folks in Mitchell County are signed up on the wireless emergency notification system. That's huge. That's a huge mitigation thing right there. Alerting people before the threat comes. That's mitigation. Trying to alleviate and you know, having less deaths, injuries, property damage, that kind of thing. So, yeah. Yep.
I have a question for you, Chris. How does this filter down through the county board to the city stuff? This mitigation plan?
How does it filter down? It's
a county-based plan
No.
you're doing?
Well, it's county, city, multi-jurisdictional. So the whole county is under the same plan. It's not just, years ago, they had annexes. Each city had its own little annex, and this covers the whole, you know, so everybody, like this, during this pandemic, everybody's covered under this presidential declaration. It's not just one little city here and there, but it's the whole county. It covers the whole county.
When you talk mitigation, I would consider that to be a plan before the fact of disaster, correct?
Yeah, basically.
And you do not know if there's any funds to correct drainage or shelters or that sort of thing. It would be grants we'd have to hunt. As a group then, or as?
You know, a lot of times with shelters, all you need is MOUs ahead of time. And set up an agreements beforehand, you know, that doesn't, you know, need any grant funding with that. With, you know, mitigation, you're trying to reduce or eliminate the threat ahead of time, like you say. Right. Yep. But it's the whole county. It's a holistic, not just annex for St. Ansgar or an annex for Stacyville. It's the whole county.
So all the cities would want to be here for this, or have representatives here?
Yeah, yes.
Okay,
correct,
thank you.
yep. Well, we'll meet with each city independently.
You're going to come
Right.
back and finish up what we've got.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what I wanted to know.
Oh, I see, okay, yep, yep, yep. Yeah,
I was just wondering if there's a way to get more people on board with that emergency alert system, you know? You said how many, what's the percentage? Or what is it?
I'm thinking around 7,000 folks right now, so you're looking at close to 70%.
Oh, we are, we have that high, okay.
Right, yeah.
So the kids that don't get it.
Potentially, yeah,
Potentially,
you're right,
yeah.
exactly.
I know my neighbors don't get it. How do you get, is it, you just have to sign up, right?
Well, so if you're computer savvy, just jump on the county website,
Okay.
and you know the big picture of the courthouse on the website, you go about three lines down, and it'll say Mitchell County Notification System.
And I know I get it, but.
You click on it, and then asks for your name, the phone devices you'd like, your email that you might want to be alerted with, and then your address down below, because we can geographically send messages
The different areas.
to the different areas of the county.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You bet. And it's all part of Alert Iowa. It's a free, the WENS, getting off topic here, but the WENS is awfully nice. It's a free deal through the Homeland Security through the state. All 99 counties have a wireless emergency notification system. Alert Iowa, it's through that. And so like when my kids, one boy is at UNI and the other one was at Iowa State, and so I would sign up for Story County alerts. And I'd get the message on my phone, I'd call my kid and say, hey, you know, there's a tornado going on, yeah, I hear the sirens, I'm ready to go. So, you know, and I've instructed people that have loved ones, elderly loved ones here in the county, they might live in Howard County, and they, you know, they're concerned about their parents being alerted overnight, and I said, well, I can sign you up, you get the alert, and you call your mom or dad or whatever, and instruct them on what to do. Well, yeah, that sounds reasonable, we'll do that, you know, so. There's other avenues you can take, I think, outside the box to get the word out to the folks in our county that there's issues coming down the pipe that you need to respond. You know, it might be a hazmat spill, we need to evacuate or shelter in place or something, but that's the nice thing about the WINS, is it gives you instructions on what to do. Yeah. Myself, the sheriff can put it out locally, the deputy, Shannon can do it. So there's different, you know, if I'm out of town or sheriff's out of town, or, you know, we have other avenues that the dispatcher can say, hey, do you think we should put our WINS out alert, you know? So it's a system that's building and growing, and we're learning more about it. And it's a good deal. So.
Is there any other questions out there for Chris? Todd, do you have a question for Chris?
No, I'm good. Sounds like a good deal.
All righty. Well, thank you, Christopher.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Keep in touch with Rachel, and we'll get a time set up
Yeah.
after a board meeting, and we'll go from there.
Can do.
All righty, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Bet.
Carpenter Community Club donation request. We have a nice letter from Barry Schrog.
Yep, I did get, he did call while we were
Okay.
in the meeting earlier. He is requesting $1,000.
All right, well anyways, I will read his letter. I'm the president of the Carpenter Community Club. We are planning our city's 150th sesquicentennial celebration in August of 2021. We are planning several events, including a beard contest, king and queen contest, a car show, a full rodeo, a tractor pull, bands for entertainment, a church service, and a parade, along with many other possibilities. It's my understanding that there may be some tourism funds available to assist us with our celebration. Anything you could provide would be greatly appreciated. And he has his contact information here, and it's sincerely Barry Schrog. So, anyways, County Attorney, you're on there. Maybe Mark isn't there anymore. It says here we should obtain the county attorney's opinion of public purpose is being served. And I think it is. This is no different than, Bratwurst Days or at Riceville. St. Ansgar has its little get-together. This wouldn't be any different. My only question, or my only concern is he's asking for 1,000, and we normally only go to 500 when we give to a local program. So that's, any other comments?
And I know the 500 thing is what we've done, so this is more of a question. Is the 500 maybe geared more for individuals or smaller things as compared to this is a citywide event? That's kind of a question, I guess. Any thoughts on that?
It sounds like with all the events they're planning, they would use that $500 in,
Just a little FYI, year they talked about.
Yes, it is.
Correct.
So, and I just happened to notice, it's Carpenter's 150th. I do go up there just on their yearly celebrations, and I'm telling you guys, they put on a hell of a show. They have quite a gathering. So I guess the FYI, a 150 Carpenter, 150 Mitchell County Fair. If to piggyback on Jim, I think is who talked earlier. On a normal year, we offer 500. None of us will see another 150th probably, but
Speak for yourself.
so I guess that's just my thought.
Will they have don't they have a barbecue?
I think they're doing it all together, is the plan, the same weekend.
So they won't be coming back down there.
No, I don't know that part,
I-
but I think they're doing it all
I
together.
believe it's all the same weekend.
'Cause that was, we'll make a motion to give Carpenter $1,000.
We have a motion.
I didn't hear that. Go ahead again.
Mark made the motion of giving Carpenter Community Club $1,000.
I will second that.
Okay, and here's something that I keep forgetting to do in between these. I'm supposed to have a comment before we go into our vote. Here's my thought is, this is a one-time 1,000?
Yes.
Correct.
Because if you give it to one, others will want it. Now, I know we've stipulated because it's their 150th. So when you give 1,000, others are gonna look over the fence and say, where's ours at?
Right.
Anyways, that's the only comment that I will have, is that this is a one-time because of their 150th.
Correct.
So anyways, this has got to be a roll call vote. I will be aye for, nay against. So Todd, what is your
Aye.
aye? Mark?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Smollett, aye. So, that is also depending on how much money we have into our account, I have no idea what it is. But anyways, it has been approved, $1,000 for Carpenter Community Club. Moving on, items of note. Meetings attended. Who would like to start?
Well, let's see. I can start, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I attended, last Thursday, I attended the ISAC, Iowa's statewide supervisors meeting, and different people talked. It's actually a pretty good informational meeting. We had people, individual from the DOT that spoke first, and he talked about the economy as far as where our economy's doing, and something that they base our economy on is rail car traffic. And if rail car traffic is down, it's usually the economy is sluggish. If rail car traffic is up, things are doing good. And they had a graph with a V-type recovery where COVID has rail car traffic going down, and now we're spiking up fairly good. So they have a good outlook as far as our economy goes. Car traffic on our roads is down about 10%. Freight and truck traffic has remained basically the same as it was in 2019. So our road use tax fund is down a small percent due to COVID, but the Fed increased the overall allocations to all of us. So they feel it more than makes up for what the COVID setback has done. Statewide local option sales tax has actually increased in 2020. There's only three counties that were down, and local option sales tax is based on the point of delivery. And just because we had COVID, people are still have to buy stuff to be delivered at home. And as far as CARES Act money, we received some CARES Act money before. We're gonna be receiving some more, and we did not have to apply for it. And everybody's kind of recommended that we can spend this however we want. We could go pave a road with it, but it's not really what it should be used for. So they were pretty much suggesting that we should use it for COVID-type activities that have happened. So ideas are public health, public safety, food banks, senior citizens, lost revenue that somebody has had throughout this thing. So those are some suggestions. Governor spoke. Her main things that she wants to do, as she did in her state of Iowa address, is one of them is broadband. Iowa currently ranks second slowest in the nation. Alaska is the slowest. And she's going to put in $150 million over the next 3 years, so per year. So a total of $450 million to start getting broadband into our state. Other things she wants to do is childcare, housing, education, and mental health. She's going to put in $15 million for 2 years, it'll be a total of $30 million. So those are the things she wants to work on. During COVID, we had 11% unemployment, and currently right now we're at 3.1, so we do have things coming back. And she also said she's not going to eliminate any of the current state backfills that the state is offering to us. The Chief Justice spoke, and I'm just going to read a statement. So, COVID distancing and security at some county courtrooms may be affected because of the increased use of courtrooms that do not meet current standards, meaning some of the courtrooms are not user-friendly to social distancing or for security. So there's other courtrooms that are more favorable to that might get used. What that means is sheriff staffing for that security. I'm not sure if that's going to affect us, but that's something that's out there. And then ISAC representatives pretty much basically commented on the governor's proposals and future legislations. They like what she said. Some other things they feel that should happen, but there's a lot more to the meeting than that, but that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you, Jim. And do you have another meeting?
Mine are all meeting, guys, sorry.
You're here, we just ain't started until 10.
Okay.
Mike, I'll let you have the floor.
We had a meeting with a youth coalition board, report, and met the new members. This was a Zoom meeting. Prairie Ridge gave an update on tobacco toolkit that was presented to the schools. They had handouts for the schools. They had vaping presentations in St. Ansgar High School, 8th and 9th grade, and Osage 9th grade. And they're working on a vaping presentation for Riceville. That must be a big thing now. A lot of the kids in school vaping. And they found that some of the vaping stuff has THC in it, which is treated as marijuana. They're finding that in schools also. And they say currently 25% of our students are vaping. So they're trying to cut down on those numbers. So, and they got a new prevention specialist, Christina Ringer, if I said that right. So she's going to be the new head of it going forward. And meeting adjourned at 5, so that's kind of it in a nutshell what they're concentrating on.
I did not have a meeting. Did you have a meeting, Mark?
No, I had one thing, that vacation that we're donating, is that?
I can put that on the agenda for next
Oh,
week.
no, that never did get followed.
Okay, so Todd, I'm sure you didn't have any meetings, so we'll move on.
Steve, actually, I just FYI, Jerry Dunley and I have connected, and maybe in a week or two he wants to give me a tour, and we'll start having our meetings again, he said.
Had Alan?
Yes,
Okay, sounds good.
that's all I have.
Thank you. Moving on, Clerk of Court's monthly report. I, Stacy Olson, Clerk of District Court, above named county and state, do hereby certify the following as true and correct statements of the fees collected by me in my office for the month ending December 31st of 2020. And she has a total of $125.47. So I believe this is a so noted. No comments from anybody here, supervisors? We'll move on to public comment. Is there any public comment out there? Keith?
Yes, I do have public comment. One would be on the Foothill project that you've tabled. When would you be looking at that project again? In a year, 2 years?
Probably next year.
I think that's what it would be tabled for the 1 year.
You'll have to redevelop the plans and go through the whole letting process and stuff, so we're looking into next year.
I understand that, but I wanted to add something there. We have, the city of St. Ansgar has done some preliminary engineering on our housing development that we're working on the southeast side. And we are needing to put in an outfall line to our sewer metering station from that property. The sewer would have to go through T26 and probably be a cut through. They consider a bore probably being way too expensive to deal with. Depends upon how much rock we run into there. Just wanted a heads up, you guys to have a heads up that we're going to be asking for that permit, and if it passes through the council and we get it funded.
Okay.
Hopefully it would pass and be done before your road project starts again.
You'll want to let the engineer know about as far as the utility permit that you need to do as far as water under the roads.
First we have to
Pardon me?
First we have to approve the project to go through, and we'll apply for permit. But I believe he's aware, and you probably guys are all aware, that we're working on a project. It's in its infancy right now.
So that would probably happen this year.
Pardon me?
That would probably happen this year, probably. For this.
It hasn't passed, but I can't tell you.
Yeah.
That's what the developer would like. I don't know what's going to happen.
That'd be good to get it before the road is, yeah.
Is there any other comments? Hearing none, we'll adjourn this meeting